It's time to sit back, relax, and listen to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life will inspire, motivate, and empower you. Live your best life now. Listen, learn, think, and decide. Change your attitude, change your life. And now, here's your host, Joan Herman.
Welcome to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. I'm Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life brings you interviews with some of the most inspirational and influential people in the world. It's our goal to educate and empower you so you can live your best life now. Thank you for taking time for yourself, and thank you for letting us be a part of your life. We have another great show for you today. Every child who has ever played baseball has dreamt of being in the World Series. Today's guest, Ron Darling, had that dream too, and he got to live it. But as many of us have learned, dreams don't always turn out as imagined. Ron is the author of the book Game 7, 1986, Failure and Triumph in the Biggest Game of My Life. He's here to talk about what he experienced that night in Shea Stadium and the lessons he's learned by reflecting on that time when the world was watching. Ron is an Emmy Award-winning baseball analyst for TBS, the MLB Network, SNY and WPIX. He was a starting pitcher for the New York Mets from 1983 to 1991, and the first Mets pitcher to be awarded a Gold Glove. Welcome, Ron. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So, Ron, this is really an honor for me to have you here. I grew up in New Jersey, and I spent a lot of time at Mets games. Reading your book, it brought back so many great memories because I remember Game 6 of '86 when we were at a comedy club in New Jersey, and they kept interrupting the comedian set to bring us updates because, we didn't have cell phones. And I had forgotten about that until I read this book. So while your book focuses on an event that took place in the game of baseball, there are so many life lessons that can be applied to just about anything a person is experiencing. So for our listeners who may not be big baseball fans or may even be too young to remember what happened 30 years ago, let's set the stage. You're a starting pitcher for the New York Mets, and you're in the World Series playing the Boston Red Sox. In Game 6, when it looked like the Mets were going to lose and it was going to be over, they had this amazing comeback, which would bring a Game 7, and you're scheduled to start in that game. So take it from there. What were you thinking going into Game 7?
Well, what was interesting, and as you said, I feel bad for the comic now who interrupted in the set, but most people believe the World Series ended after Game 6, after the ball went through Buckner's legs, but there was another night to play. And the interesting part about it is that the initial game, which was supposed to be the next night on Sunday, was rained out. And so there were 2 days of 48 hours between that time and the time I had the pitch. What was interesting about when they won the World Series, there was no one happier running on that field and jumping on top of each other. The parade the next day, no one had more fun than I did during that day. But 2 days later, because of my start in Game 7, which wasn't great, I kind of hit a wall in my apartment. And I think that for a lot of athletes or a lot of people, they love when they envision themselves in the most opportune time. And for a pitcher, it's pitching Game 7. And I didn't come through. And it was really, honestly, the first time in my entire life as an athlete that I didn't come through, and I was trying to figure out why was that? How did that happen? Why didn't I come through? And I think there were two things that I got from writing the book, and it was a very cathartic experience. Was one, a little bit of, and this was on me, a paralysis by analysis. Sometimes we can make things that are very simple much more complicated than they are, and I certainly did that. And then the Boston Red Sox were a good ball club, decided that this young right-hander who was going to start 3 times in 11 days against them was not going to have a successful Game 7.
Well, and as you said, you've had 30 years to reflect on that evening, and you have gained valuable insight. And one of the things that you write about in the book is fear, and it's this fear that you didn't belong there. And this is something that so many of us experience, this fear that we're going to be, quote unquote, found out. And for someone like me, who's looking at you and all that you had achieved at that point, it's really difficult to imagine that you had those thoughts. So if you could go back with what you know now, and this is a lesson for someone who's thinking like that in whatever it may be, what would you tell yourself to overcome those fears?
Yeah, I think that self-worth is the most important gift that we all have, and I think that, we go through different times in our life where we feel we have more self-worth or less. I would have told myself that, boy, you know what? You are amazing. You've done a lot in a short amount of time. And really, instead of getting worked up about the start that you're going to make, why don't you just enjoy the process and be in the present? I think that's what I would have told myself. In the book, I write a story about a friend of mine whose mom was a teacher and whose dad was a post office worker, and he had a big interview with a kind of a hedge fund of the day, kind of big star. And after they were done the interview, he thought he got the job. He thought the interview went great. And a couple of weeks later, he found out he didn't get it, called this maverick of a man and just asked, is there anything I could have done better in the interview? I thought I did pretty well. He goes, no, your interview was great. You just, you're the kid of blue-collar people. This is white-collar dreams, not blue-collar dreams. And I always thought that what a mean thing to say. But secondly, I think that's what happens when you grow up in the kind of environment I grew up in, which was very, lower middle class. And sometimes when you get to huge events, sometimes you think about, boy, do I belong here? How the heck did I get here? I would have told myself that, boy, you've accomplished a lot and you should really enjoy this experience because you deserve it.
And I wanted to talk about that blue collar dream concept because I found that fascinating. And, you wrote that you were good enough to dream, you were good enough to be recruited, you were good enough to play pro ball, to get into the series, but that's where it ended. And what do you think it actually is that happens? And when I was thinking about this and I was trying to understand it, I thought about my boys. We're basically middle class, and I put them in a preparatory Catholic high school. And the kids that they went to school with were, they were in line to be CEOs and judges and so forth. And for my kids to achieve that, there would be a story attached to it, where with these other kids, it's just expected of them, and they know that. And do you think that that's what it is? Am I clear on that?
I think you're very clear. I think for some, it's a rite of passage. For others, it's so daunting. I mean, for my childhood, neither of my parents graduated from high school. So when I got into Yale, and I'm the same, I went to all boys college preparatory school. I was expected to excel in schools. I was expected to be the first one in my family to go to college. And when I got there, I just kind of realized how different I was than for a lot of kids who going to Yale was a rite of passage. It was a normal turn of events. For me, it was like winning the lottery. You know what I mean? So it was a different existence for me. Not that I didn't enjoy it as much as they did, but I did feel that responsibility and onus to live up to all those things that my parents wanted to happen for me, and that's a little different than some of my classmates who were had a BMW on campus
Exactly.
while I walked everywhere. It is a different existence, and your boys are going to be rewarded and enjoy it down the road, maybe even more than some that it comes a little more easier to.
And Ron, you talk about overcoming obstacles. I mean, in high school, a recruiter told you that you didn't have what it would take to play in the majors. And then on top of that, you switched to being a pitcher in college. I mean, is that even possible today that someone could take up pitching in college and then make it to the pros?
No, I think because, we are trying to, and I tried not to do this for my children. My children are grown, but, we live in a world where, by the time you're 7 or 8 years old, you should be specialized in what you're going to do and who you're going to become. And boy, that is just what a daunting and awful thing, I think, to do to our kids. I think we definitely want to kind of push them to where they want to go, but the bottom line is I want them to be kids too and to enjoy that. And we live in a world where our kids are at school all day and then they have 2-3 hours of homework to do, and when's the time that they can be kids? I think we've got to, as parents, and we've got to, as educators, and make our priorities a little different. They do it in European countries, and they do a great job of it, and hopefully we get better at it here.
Ron, from everything you've experienced, what advice do you offer to kids who want to pursue a dream, whether it be to play Major League Ball or anything else?
Yeah, I'm asked all the time, what can parents do to make themselves a professional athlete? And I want to kind of chuckle when I hear that, because you don't really find Major League sports; they kind of find you. And I think it's the same with other kind of those jobs that you aspire to. I think you can only make yourself as good as you can make yourself, as smart as you can make yourself, have great self-worth. And if you're that kind of personality, then that job that you love is going to find you. You're going to find it. But taking care of oneself, whether it's education, whether it's self-worth, how good you feel, all of those things I think are going to push you to what you're passionate about. And I think that, the older I get, the things that I'm really passionate about are the things that I'm really good at. And if you're really passionate about it and you become very good at it, somehow you'll be able to make a living at it. And that'd be my best piece of advice.
Ron, in our final moments, what's the takeaway? What do you want to leave our listeners with?
What I want to leave your listeners with is that, it's all right, to live your dream. It's all right to have that moment, and it's all right if the moment doesn't come out perfectly. I think we have all of our lives are series of things that don't go perfectly, but we work around it and get to the place that we want to be. I just think that we put so much pressure on ourselves to live a perfect life when there is no perfect life. There's just a life. And to enjoy it and be in the present while you're doing it is the only way to really thrive.
Whether you're a baseball fan or just want to learn a lesson or two about life, check out a copy of Game 7, 1986 by Ron Darling. Ron, thank you so much for being here. I have to tell you, I've been doing this show for 7 years, and this is the second time my sons have paid attention. The first time was Jim Abbott, and now you. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Your show is fantastic. It's uplifting, and it's exactly what we all need right now.
We'll be right back. Hi, this is Joan Herman, host of Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Did you know that Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life has a free monthly digital magazine that can be read online or emailed to your inbox? Every month, nationally recognized leaders in their field provide information to educate, inspire, and motivate you. We believe in a holistic approach to life, incorporating mind, body, and spirit. Check out a copy of Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life 24/7. Visit CYACYL.com and be sure to tell your friends. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you found the show informative. At Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life, we believe that knowledge is power. Take what you've learned, apply it, and live your best life now. Remember that the information provided are the opinions of our guests and should never replace the advice of a professional who knows your personal situation. If you'd like more information, visit our website, CYACYL.com. That stands for Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. While on the site, listen to past shows on demand, read the digital magazine, and be sure to follow the show on Facebook and Twitter. Until next time, this is Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in.